everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is Alan Perez with the media and content team here at Set Schedule. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Meet the Agent. Joining me today is Heron Suarez, expert real estate agent that services the Southwest Riverside County and North San Diego counties specifically, but spanning a large area in the Southern California market. Heron, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you, Alan. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
Of course. And thank you so much for taking us up on the offer. Now, to give context and a little bit of background, could you share how long you've been in the real estate industry and what inspired you to jump into real estate to begin with?
Sure. So I've been in the industry for 20 years plus in different capacities. 15 of those years, I worked with the home builder, the nation's largest home builder, to be exact. And after 15 years of being there, I decided to make the transition over to get my real estate license and just become a realtor and helping people sell and buy homes.
Awesome. And so with the background that you have, it's not something that we see commonly, I would say. And I also would say that it's kind of a sign of a good realtor. When you've been in the space adjacent, but not necessarily working directly with the home buyers or the home sellers, it gives you additional perspective that maybe other professionals or realtors don't necessarily have. Can you share, or does anything come to mind in terms of the additional benefits that you're able to give to your clients based on your background working with a home builder directly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do see that as a plus and a added benefit to my clients, being that I have an extensive background in the home industry. So I've seen the homes being built. I'm familiar with the different features. I'm familiar with what to look out for, right? So the real estate transaction has different facets to it. And so one of those being when I'm representing a seller or a buyer, there's an inspection process, right? And so it helps if your agent is familiar with how things should be working in the home, right? So for example, I'm representing a seller. We get the buyer's inspection report, and there are items on there that the buyer could be asking the seller to make right or repair or give credit. So one of the added benefits that I give to my clients is the ability to review that report and verify whether those items that are being requested of them to be fixed or for the buyer to receive a credit, whether they are in fact legitimate items or they're not really things to be concerned. And then we negotiate accordingly, right? So it's important to know that part of the real estate transaction so that you could, one, save your clients money. And obviously, we're hired to look out for their best interests, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have encountered some inspection reports where maybe the home inspector, whether knowingly or not, has put some items in there, called out some things on that report that basically there was no problem with those things, or there was nothing needed to be done. So that's one of the things. And just being in the industry as a customer service representative, warranty representative, again, addressing homeowner issues when I was with the home builder, right? My department, all we were doing is basically we're the warranty department. So when we are involved is we're fixing something or we're resolving issues for our homeowners. So bringing that experience is very, very valuable in my estimation. And I've been able to implement that in now the resale part of the real estate industry.
Definitely. And I mean, that's amazing that you bring that additional perspective because at the end of the day, it does mean it translates into the bottom line for your clients, right? As you were mentioning, it can be in the thousands, if not tens of thousands, especially if it's incorrectly marked or if it's not something that the home buyer or the home seller should be responsible for. So it definitely makes a lot of sense that you have that added perspective and that it benefits your clients because of that. Now, on that topic, I mean, how long would you say that it took you to hit your stride in real estate? Because again, depending on the approach and the preparation that you have, it can take anywhere from a couple of months to a year plus to actually start closing transactions with regularity. How could you describe to me a little bit how the process was transitioning into real estate and your ramp up period there?
Sure. So I got my license in 2017, end of summer of 2017. Didn't really go into real estate full time till February of 2018, right? So
Hmm.
those from July July 2017 to February 2018, not much going on there. And then finally, 2018, decided to go into the business full time. And it's a venture of faith. I see it as that, because you're leaving a comfortable career where you have a steady paycheck, you have benefits and things like that, but no risk, no reward. So I decided to go for it. And my goal uh, in the first year of real estate was basically, okay, if I do 8 transactions, I'll be okay. If I go full time 2018 and end up closing 8 deals, I'll be good. And to my surprise, I ended up closing double that, 16 transactions in my first year. So I thought I was doing good. That was encouraging, grateful for what I was able to accomplish. Um, but from then on, I mean, it's just being able to consistently uh, put time and effort into it. And there's no magic bullet, no magic pill. It's hard work, it's consistency, it's doing what you need to do today to reap the rewards tomorrow. So I mean, it's hard work, but there is reward in it, and I've been fortunate to be successful in it, I would say. And my first year in it, 2018, I was able to get Rookie of the Year, a Rookie of the Year award at the brokerage that I was at. And then the following year, I was able to get another award for top producer, being a top producer. So, it's good. It feels good. And again, I was grateful and fortunate to be able to do those things.
Well, firstly, I mean, I have to say congratulations on your achievements, right? The fact that you've been able to consistently exceed your own expectations. And that's actually something that I do want to talk about a little bit more. It seems like in the approach and the transition that you took, right? The mindset that you had in that process, very pragmatic, very realistic, right? You set benchmarks and you wanted to be able to achieve them. Now that's something that here at Set Schedule we're incredibly interested in discussing at all times, not just for the sake of real estate, but for the sake of business and entrepreneurship. Um, how were you able to decide that 8 was the right number to make sure that you're seeing the right progress, that you want to lean into this fully? How did you arrive on that specific number of 8 transactions?
So 8 was the number because of I figured if I close 8 deals, that'll give me the salary I was getting with DR Horton. So it was a math uh, consideration, right? Okay, here's how much I'm making with my current or previous employer. So in order for me to be able to pay the bills and continue to live the same lifestyle that I'm used to, I got to be able to close these many transactions, right? So that's where the 8 came from. Now, after the second year, it's basically now, okay, I did 16 this year. Now I want to beat that number um, by this many, right? While at the same time, keeping a balance between work and um, family and other responsibilities. So for me, I try to be involved at my local church, try to serve there and volunteer my time there too. So, for me, it's a balance, um, trying to find that balance where I have enough time with my wife and kids. I have enough time to give to my community at church and things like that. And at the same time, able to make a living and provide for my family. So,
Amazing. And I mean, that process of identifying the goal, working backwards and realizing, okay, this is the approach that I need to take. It's almost fundamental in real estate, right? Because it's not you don't all of a sudden get your license, go out and start selling houses left and right. It's like you mentioned, putting in the work, having the dedication and being able to reap the rewards later on down the line. Um, now, I mean, just for the sake of, I guess, background, how did you first realize that that was the approach that you needed to take for business? Was it something that you specifically recognized in real estate, or is it something that you learned maybe previously?
yeah. So, uh, one of the things that I would say was very valuable to me was finding the right brokerage, right?
Hmm.
Finding the right brokerage where you have other agents to emulate, uh, whose example you could follow and find out what they're doing right, what they've done wrong, and have the ability to learn from other people. So when I first started in 20 when I first got my license, I should say, in 2017, I signed up with, I'm not going to name that brokerage, right? But they promised and offered training, state of the art training, all these things. And lo and behold, they fell short of it, right?
Hmm.
In my opinion. So I looked for another place, did a little bit of research, watched some videos and all that, met with uh, another brokerage, and I was able to come in there, and it was a good fit. Their training was excellent. They're not only were they training you on the proper way of creating templates for your offers and for your listings, but also they had uh, role play, a role play schedule where certain agents every Thursday of the week would come in and role play certain scenarios of the listing process, buyer process, and so the training was good. And then you learn from these agents that are doing multiple transactions. They're obviously very, very successful, and you get to glean what works for them and avoid mistakes that maybe they've made, and being able to ask those questions, right?
Hmm.
Because if you're not asking questions, then you're not learning, and we don't know it all. I don't know it all still, and I don't think I will ever know it all, but we should be growing in our knowledge, understanding, and figuring out what works, what doesn't. So I would say surrounding yourself with other successful agents, um, and being challenged and pushed too, right? Being held
Hmm.
accountable. Let your broker hold you accountable. Talk to your broker and say, here's my goal for the year. Can you help me formulate a plan? Can you keep me accountable? Can you make sure that I'm being pushed when I need that push, counseled when I need counseling, given perspective when I need that perspective. So
Hmm.
surround yourself with other agents that could speak that into your life, or your broker, or just be out there, be learning, watching videos, things like that. I would say it's very, very fundamental and important.
Definitely. And I think that it's a representation of something that I think that is clear and apparent with the agents that know how to get success is that you need to build your processes. You need to be held accountable. You need to, at a certain point, be able to drill in and do the work, right? Which means pick up the phone, make the call, try the script, or try to connect. If you're not able to, rinse and repeat, keep going, right? To have those processes and to make sure that there's measurable movement. If you're not able to get to that point, I think that that potentially is where a lot of agents can have that failure to launch. Because at the end of the day, if you're responsible only to yourself, right? How often do we feel motivated to actually go and do what's benefiting us or our business? How often is it, the fact that we have a regiment instead of routine that gets us to that point? And so I really like that. Actually, on that same topic, I mean, what processes, maybe what routines or schedules do you have when it comes to growing your business, prospecting, marketing? Could you share a little bit on that?
Sure. So, there is no one thing that will produce results, at least in my opinion, right? You
Hmm.
got to have different funnels, different sources where you're getting your uh, business from, transactions from, clients from, right? So, what I've done is I've done door knocking. That's probably been one of the scariest things to do, but um, I have found results there. Another thing is cold calling, right?
Hmm.
Making those phone calls and just letting people know who you are and being top of mind. So when someone is thinking about buying or selling, they need to know you need to come to the forefront of their minds, right? And that's where you're staying in touch with them, and you're not necessarily harassing them, but you're just reminding them, hey, I'm here, whether it's through a phone call, a post. Do you have any questions regarding the real estate market? So making those phone calls, and being able to cope with and accept that there will be rejection in the process. People will hang up on you. Doors will be shut in your face. Hopefully, not too many. Hopefully, they're not too rude, right? But
Hmm.
sometimes you do get those. And then also capitalizing on the business that you're doing. So you close the transaction. It's important to let others know in the community that you did that you just closed this transaction for this much. What were the successes of that transaction? How were you able to benefit your client uh, during that transaction, right? So you
Hmm.
need to let others know. And then there are some lead generation services out there, right, that you could pay for. Um, that's a little tough because oftentimes these lead generating services, they offer you or promise you the world, and they don't deliver on that, right? Some are more effective, but if you could get transactions from door knocking, cold calling, printed media, um, a lead service provider, all these things, sphere of influence, that's a big one. So when you just start in the business, oftentimes you don't have the credibility, right? You don't have all the transactions or a lot of transactions under your belt. One of the things that you can capitalize on is your sphere of influence. They know your character. They know whether you're a person that keeps their word, a person of integrity, right? There's already a certain trust element with your sphere of influence. So you got to go where your strengths are, right?
Hmm.
Um, and capitalize on that. And then you expand from there. So once you close a couple of transactions or a few transactions from your sphere of influence, now you have a certain level of credibility, right? Now
Hmm.
they've seen you have the expertise, the experience from closing those deals. Now there is more credibility behind you. So, not sure if that answered your question, but
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I mean, it's ultimately like you were saying about getting the perspective, being able to ultimately know what your growth is, what you stand to offer, and being able to communicate that in whatever method, right? And at the end of the day, if you know your value, if you know what you're offering, then you should be able to put your best foot forward and ideally start to eliminate and say, okay, cool, I did what I could, but maybe door knocking in my market just is not going to work. Let's move on to the next one. Or, keeping those different avenues open and seeing which one can move forward and progress. That makes a lot of sense. And I really appreciate, the background that you shared regarding that. Um, I mean, on that topic, how would you recommend, and this question comes strictly because I feel like a lot of people, myself included. I mean, honestly, everybody, the human condition, I would say, is that it's hard to look at yourself and your performance objectively, right? How would you recommend, or how were you able to identify what you were actually good at versus what you wanted to think that you were good at?
I would say it's what's producing results, right?
Hmm.
What's yeah, what's producing results, and If you see that your sphere of influence is where you're getting most of your transactions, then continue to grow your sphere of influence. If you see that you're good at cold calling, you got the scripts down, and you're getting transactions out of that, then the wheel's not broken. Continue to roll on that wheel, right?
Hmm.
Um, but then again, it's also sometimes I think we could make excuses and reasons. Oh, this doesn't work for me. Oh, I tried it and it doesn't work for me. But were you doing it right? Were you doing it consistently? Were you putting the time and effort and energy to learn how to get better, right? To master that one thing, right? Because oftentimes we could be lying to ourselves, deceiving ourselves. Oh, that doesn't work. But you see that others are having success with it. Why aren't you, right? Can it be that maybe you need to improve your skill set in that area, right? So just being okay with being challenged and growing, and then look at those that are doing good things in that and implementing some things that maybe you could glean from them. So I would say see what produces results and keep doing that. Like for me, what as I mentioned earlier, I found that it's different things. You got to be doing different things, have different tunnels, or excuse me, different funnels and different sources that are coming in at different times. Transactions coming in from different times. Sphere, cold calling, print media, um, lead generating services, right? All those
Hmm.
things, and you're getting deals from all of them, and that's how the wheel keeps rolling, so to speak.
That makes sense. I mean, it's definitely true, and like you were mentioning, right? We do need to be honest with ourselves. I mean, especially from a business perspective. I really like the way that you phrased it, right? Which is, if other people are seeing success with this, why am I not seeing success with this, right? And to, I mean, I really do honestly believe that in the real estate space, especially with the level of self accountability, right? It's not often that your broker is going to force you to be successful, right? It's whoever wants to seek the right steps and get there has the ability to do that, right? Um, but at the same time, I think that that's why it's so important to realize I need to consistently and constantly develop myself, challenge myself, grow myself and my capabilities, which again is amazing. And actually, that brings me to another topic. Something that we touched on briefly before. You mentioned the importance of having the right people around you as you develop, as you grow, as you continue to develop your real estate business. Have you thought about forming a team and with different professionals that you might collaborate with regularly? Inspectors, contractors, stagers, whoever it may be. How do you make sure that you choose the right people to work with consistently?
Sure. And I think that is very, very important, right? Because in the uh, in the transaction, the real estate transaction, it's not only the realtor, you also have the lender, you also have the escrow company that you're using, title, home warranty, and all these individuals, um, all these parties have a play in that real estate transaction, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure that all these people that you're associating with and linking up with are also committed to giving your client a superb experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they, when you hand them off for their part of the transaction, your client is still in great hands. That everything, any questions that arise are going to be answered in a timely manner, that they're going to get the right answers, right? So that's important. And obviously, again, there everyone could promise you the world. Everyone can promise you that they are the best, and here's why, right? But until you work with them, uh, that's when you will know. How did that transaction go? How was the escrow process smooth? Uh, were any issues that arose, any problems, any difficulties handled properly? were they able to pick up the ball? Maybe they dropped the ball. Maybe uh, something happened along the way. Were they able to pick it up, make it right, and continue moving forward, right? So picking those services, those individuals that you link up with is very important. Lenders matter, right? The type of lend or the person you're working with matters, because when you submit an offer, for example, you're representing a buyer, you're submitting your buyer's offer, that name that comes in that pre-approval matters, because if that lender has a bad reputation, then the listing agent on the other side will know. If they know the area, they know their niche, they will know who that lender is. What kind of reputation do they have? Are they able to close the transaction in 21 days like they said they could, right? Are they
Mhm.
able to order the appraisal on time like they said they would? So those things matter, right? And that's why when we as realtors um, give options to our clients for the different services, we need to be acquainted with the reputation that those parties have to make sure that they're going to be taking care of our clients and that the transaction will go as smooth as possible, right? Because as a realtor, you are impacted with by the performance of the people that you are recommending to your clients or giving them options to those people. Yep.
Mhm. I mean, 100%. And a lot of the time, especially when I've talked to agents who maybe they're not seeing as much success on the platform as they would like, right? They're not getting the turnaround, they're not getting the responses, right? It's because they have processes or potentially they have collaborators, right? When they're able to make contact, obviously. If you're not able to make contact, comes I would say comes to nurturing, comes to regularity of contact, all of those different things. When you're able to, and when I identify agents who are able to make that connection, but something happens, something gets in the way. A lot of the time, maybe it's that incomplete handoff to the lender. Maybe the lender doesn't follow up until next week when they said they would call today. Maybe when the lender calls, the prospect just doesn't feel that they're the right person to work with. And so these are all different aspects that I think a lot of agents don't necessarily put the thought into. And again, that's why it's so refreshing and uh, definitely something to emulate, right? The way that you present it and the way that you do it. Because again, I would say that you're very much, in my estimation, right, the way that I see it, one of the best kinds of realtors because you look to track trends, you look to understand processes, and at the end of the day, that's the best thing that an agent can do for you when you're a home shopper or a home seller is to understand the complicated parts, but then to be able to explain it to you and to be able to give you the logic behind it and say, well, look, this is why we're doing this. And I think best of all, you explain it as if though you were in that client's shoes, right? To make sure they understand what is that they're going to get or not going to get, what are the intricacies of that process. And so, I mean, again, definitely, I guess I do want to just, recognize that you have those benefits to you, and it's very much what makes the distinction between a good agent who's able to have success and make connections versus a great agent who's going to be able to develop a book of business that they're able to work with regularly, grow an entire team under them if necessary, right? If you're so driven to. Um, Thank you so much, Aaron, for having joined us for today. Now, we are running close to the end of our time. Before we do sign off here, we do have just a couple of last questions for you. Again, I very much appreciate the approach that you have, the methodical aspect to it. Um, what recommendations would you give, or do you give usually, for first time buyers, for people who are starting to gain interest in the real estate process? What kind of guidelines would you recommend to them so that they can get the process started in the right way?
Yeah, good. That's a very, very good question. Um, Something that we regularly deal with in our industry is, um, you know, people that are curious, people that want to know, am I able to buy a home? And I would obviously say that there is a process, there are steps uh, that you want to go through systematically, and oftentimes they don't know where to start, right? So
Mhm.
they're thinking about buying and they're searching for homes online. Um, that is good and all, but basically until you know what you're pre-approved for, or whether you're pre-approved for, or excuse me, pre-approved through the lender, um, it does you no good. You're looking in the dark, right? So I would say the first step is um, making sure that you follow your realtor's recommendations. Obviously, you want to connect with the realtor and then follow their recommendations, because they know what it will take to start the process and how to bring you all the way to the finish line, right? So I often tell people that reach out to me, step number one is let's get you pre-approved. Here are a couple, two, three options that I present to them as far as lenders that they could reach out for, talk to them. Um, but it's important to get pre-approved, because until you know whether you are pre-approved to buy a home, to get a loan to buy that home, um, you're in the dark. You don't know how much am I pre-approved for? What would my monthly payment look like, right? Um, so that's step number one. Once we get that pre-approval, you're pre-approved for $550,000, $600,000. Okay, now we know what range we need to look at. Uh, what's your monthly payment? Another factor is the tax rate, right? Different areas have different tax rates. So one area could be a 2% tax rate, California. Another area could be 1.5, right? So that's going to matter when it comes to your monthly payment. So pre-approval, um, know the area, and then finally, uh, know the pros and cons. So one of the things that I also do is I represent buyers with new construction homes, new build. Okay,
Hmm.
so there are pros and cons. New build home, everything's brand new. You get a home warranty. You anything happens, you call the builder. They're going to send their warranty rep to assess it, and if it's warrantable, they're going to cover it. Uh, a re a resale home, pre-owned home, you may not have the builder warranties, but it may cost you less, right? It may
Hmm.
cost you. You may want to buy a home warranty on your own and have that peace of mind, but you may need to invest some work to bring it up to par. It depends, right? So pre-approval, know the area, and then here's a big one. What are you willing to sacrifice? Because in the current market that we're in, rarely are you going to get everything that you want. Okay.
Hmm.
So you got to determine what is more important to me and my family. Is it the school district, right? Is it the tax rate? So you want a pool, but there aren't many of those. Are you okay with buying a home without a pool, and then in the future maybe having one put in? So I mean, that and those are questions that I discuss with my clients, uh, give them a realistic perspective, and that's one of the things I would say. Look for a realtor that's going to be honest with you and upfront and give you a realistic perspective. And sometimes they're going to tell you something you don't want to hear, right? Or you may not like, but they're in the industry. They're looking at these houses day in, day out. They're working in this field on a daily basis. That's our area of expertise. So we're going to give you the right information so that you can make the right decision. Because when it's all said and done, we're just here to provide you information and to help you achieve your goals, right? So a realtor should do that. That's our goal. Our goal is to help you achieve yours, give you the right information, give you options so you can make the best decision for your family, for your situation, and move forward and get the deal done. And you're moving on uh, to the next thing, right? So
Hmm.
we, as realtors, we take on the stress and load so that you don't have to, right? And that's our job. That's how I see it. My job is to make sure that my clients are being taken care of, that they're getting the best deal. If I'm listing their home, the highest and best offer, if I'm representing them on the buyer side, then I want to get them the best deal, best terms, so that they, when it's all said and done, they're happy and I'm happy and I get referrals and they have a great experience.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Aaron, for being able to share that background. I mean, ultimately, in kind of reviewing what you're saying, it feels like it is very much finding the agent who will act as a consultant for you, right? Be able to give you the perspective, be able to answer the questions realistically and honestly, not just to tell you what you're wanting to hear, not to sell you on anything, right? And no, I mean it's definitely great advice. It's one of the best ways to get started. And again, with real estate and with professionals, it's not bad to get a second opinion, a third opinion. You can talk to multiple different agents. It's just a matter of finding the one that will be able to work for you, and put themselves in your shoes, honestly, right? To make sure that they satisfy your conditions, that they make sure to give you the perspective that at the end of the day, it's your decision, that they help you arrive to. So thanks again for everything, Aaron. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Meet the Agent. For our viewers and listeners, don't hesitate to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out our social media pages as well. My name again is Alan Perez, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thank you. All right.